Hello, welcome in everyone. My name is Vesper Fortune, Bat of Fortune, Witch of Fate. And I welcome you all to my shop in the Sacred Void. How is everyone today? I hope everyone is more awake than I am. I took a 30-minute nap, but I have a sleep debt of years. I have a sleep debt of years. Other than that, I'm fine. The nap really helped. But, I'm doing fine. Hope everyone else is doing okay. I'm not sure how long the stream will be tonight. I do want to finish the story. Gallon Project got Gutenberg. I do want to finish the story, but I'm also going to be 100% honest. The sleepy, the tired, the utter destruction of my sleep schedule has been an entire thing, an entire issue. Huh? Gutenberg. Gutenberg. There we go. Okay. But, oh god, now that I'm talking about sleep, I'm getting sleepy again. Where the hell are we? We're on chapter 15. How many more chapters we got? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Oh, 24 is a long-ass chapter. Okay. I see what we're gonna do tonight. The aim is going to be trying to make it to chapter 20. That's the aim. I'm not sure if we're gonna reach it. But I hope everyone's doing well. I am very excited. If you have not seen my schedule, let me put it up. Let me put up my schedule. Image. Let me put, because I'm very excited to announce, this is my affiliate celebration week, so we'll be doing some special events. Okay, alright, cancel. Oh god, you can't see me because my schedule's huge. Wait, is this it? No, this isn't it. Why are you wrong? Why are you wrong? Why are you wrong? Oh, that's why. That's why. Okay. There we go. This is my affiliate celebration week, so... Why are you the most annoyingly huge thing? That's what she said. Okay. We're gonna put that right there. We're gonna put that somewhere. So this Thursday we are having... Okay, wait. I'm just gonna lock myself, cause... Boop. No way, I'll go over here. This week we will be doing, art. On Thursday we will be doing art through Illustrator, and I'll just be drawing. It'll be like a very nice warm-up, my return to digital art, digital drawing. It's gonna be a nice, like, return to that. But I will be drawing. I'll be mostly drawing friends and some people I observe, I admire. Observe. That sounds creepy. Oh no. I'll be drawing some people I admire, some people who just have cute designs. I'll definitely be drawing friends. Friends are like just automatic. Just automatic. And Friday will be a writing advice, like, it'll be like a slideshow of stuff that I think all writers should know. Personally, in my opinion. And we will also have the Q&A with my telonym, because I will be allowing people to submit questions through telonym. So, but if I don't get enough questions through telonym, I will just be taking questions through chat, so don't worry. If you can't get in through Telegram, I will be taking questions from chat. And Saturday is kind of the Smash I Pass, but I'm mostly going to be talking about people's designs on stream for Saturday. So that'd be nice. Not to mention with the with September Fashion Week happening, we can go over we can talk about that as well. Hopefully we can see some shows. Hopefully if the character design review is a little light, if the character design review is a little light, we will be watching the September Fashion Week a little. We'll be doing that. So let me just trash this. Let me just trash. And I'm back over here. But that is the plan for this week. No games, unfortunately. I am very excited for I'm just excited to show people stuff that's more related to what I do, like what I normally do, like outside of the video gaming and the screaming and the twitching and the flinching and the cringing and the yeah. But oh my god, the brain is blanking, but we're gonna be finishing up Frankenstein tonight. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do for we're gonna try and finish up Frankenstein tonight. We're going to get as far as we can, because I want, I'm going to make next Sunday something besides Frankenstein, maybe, user-submitted stories, or something else, maybe, I don't really know. I don't know just yet. But, that is the plan. Maybe I'll read some of my favorite creepypastas. Yeah, that might be cool. Though, they'll be taken away from, October. And you know, I'll be fine. I'll figure out something to do on Sunday. And maybe user-submitted poems. Yeah, that might be cool. But, that's the plans. I'm very excited. Hopefully we can do everything I want to. I think I'm going to be starting a D&D campaign soon. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, so I'm not sure exactly when or how that's going to start. It may bite into my, wow. It may bite into my schedule. It might take a nice little chomp out of my schedule for a bit until I can, find a new day to sell on. But I don't think it's going to. I think we're going to talk about that first. But, hopefully it's not going to take a huge chomp out of my schedule. If not, I can move things around. I have no issue doing that. Currently working on stuff, as always. When aren't I working on stuff? It's always something. Wait, did I change my things? I'm just going to go ahead and do that again. But I think it's time we went to reading, shall we? My life is boring. I don't have much to talk about. I like to save stuff for the improv, but I think tonight's just a nice, cozy reading stream. And not to mention we have a lot to be reading, so let's get to it. Yes, let's get into the Frankenstein. Let me just get the atmosphere going. The atmosphere. I don't mind getting to the red a little tonight. Let me just Oh no, that needs to go down a lot. Mostly for me, not for you guys, but for me. Okay, and we're just gonna mute that, just in case. Okay, is everyone ready for Frankenstein? You know what I've been forgetting to do? I've been forgetting to, like, put it in the chat. I've been forgetting to put it in the chat, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Oh, can you not? Can you not? This is what we're reading. And I will paste, I will enter, and I will pin manually. Okay. If anyone wants to follow along, I have pinned where we are reading it in Gutenberg. And we are on chapter 15. Okay. Minimize so I can keep my eye on stream. Let me, why isn't the atmosphere being atmospheric? There we go. It's really hard sometimes to figure out where exactly the audio needs to be. Okay. Get the yawns out, get the yawns out. Such was the history of my beloved cottagers. It impressed me deeply. I learned from the views of social life which it developed to admire their virtues and to deprecate the vices of mankind. As I yet looked upon crime as a distant evil, benevolence and generosity were ever present before me, inciting within me a desire to become an actor in the busy scene where so many admirable qualities were called forth and displayed. But in giving account of the progress of my intellect, I must not omit a circumstance in which occurred in the beginning of the month of August of the same year. One night, during my accustomed visit to the neighboring wood where I collected my own food and brought home firing for my protectors, I found on the ground a leathern portmanteau containing several articles of dress and some books. I eagerly seized the prize and returned with it to my hovel. Fortunately, the books were written in the language of the elements of which I had acquired at the cottage. They consisted of Paradise Lost, a volume of Plutarch Lives, and the Sorrows of Werther. The possession of these treasures gave me extreme delight. I now continually studied and exercised my mind upon these histories, while my friends were employed in their ordinary occupations. I can hardly describe to you the effects of these books. They produced in me an infinity of new images and feelings that sometimes raised me to ecstasy, but more frequently sucked me into the lowest dejection. In the Sorrows of Werther, besides the interest of its simple and affecting story, so many opinions are canvassed and so many lights are thrown upon the hitherto been to me obscure objects, that I found it in a never-ending source of speculation and astonishment. The gentle and domestic manners that it described combined with lofty sentiments and feelings, which have for their object something in itself, accorded well with my experience among my protectors, and with the wants which were forever alive in my own bosom. I thought Werther himself a more divine being than I had ever beheld or imagined. His character contained no pretension, but sunk deep. The disquisitions upon death and suicide were calculated to fill me with wonder. I did not pretend into the merits of the case, yet I inclined towards the opinions of the hero whose extinction I wept, without precisely understanding it. As I read, however, I applied much personally to my own feelings and condition. I found myself similar, yet at the same time strangely unlike to the beings concerning whom I read, to whose conversations I was a listener. I sympathized with and partly understood them, but I was unformed in mind. I was dependent on none and related to none. The path of my departure was free, and there were none to lament my annihilation. My person was hideous, and my stature gigantic. What did this mean? Who was I? What was I? Whence did I come? What was my destination? These questions continually recurred, but I was unable to solve them. The volume of Plutarch Lives, which I possessed, contained the histories of the first founders of the ancient republics. This book had far different effect upon me from the Sorrows of Werther. I learned from Werther's imaginations despondency and gloom, but Plutarch taught me high thoughts. He elevated me above the wretched sphere of my own reflections, to admire and love heroes of past ages. Welcome in, whatever. I hope you're doing well. We are continuing Frankenstein tonight. Many things I read surpassed my understanding and experience. I had a very confused knowledge of kingdoms, wide extents of country, mighty rivers, and boundless seas. What were you doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're nice and chill, have a nice warm drink at hand, are all curled up and nice and comfy. I was perfectly unacquainted with towns and large assemblages of men. The cottages of my protectors had been the only school in which I had studied human nature. But this book developed new and mightier scenes of action. I read of men concerned in public affairs, governing or massacring their species. I felt the greatest ardor for virtue rise within me, an abhorrence for vice, as I understood the signification of those terms, relative as they were, as I applied them to pleasure and pain alone. Induced by these feelings, I was, of course, led to admire peaceable lawgivers, Numa, Solon, and Lycurgus, in preference to Romulus and Theseus. The patriarchal lives of my protectors caused these impressions to take a firm hold on my mind. Perhaps, if my introductions to humanity had been made by a young soldier, burning for glory and slaughter, I should have been imbued with different sensations. What did you eat for dinner? Frankenstein is reading books. Good for him. Pizza, I'm jealous. I'm jealous, but I know I get to have pizza this week, I think. But Paradise Lost excited different and far deeper emotions. As I read it, as I read the other volumes which fall into my hands as true history, it moved every feeling of wonder and awe that the picture of an omnipotent God warring with his creatures was capable of exciting. I often refer to several situations as their similarity struck me to my own. Like Adam, I was apparently united by no link to any other being in existence. Their state was far different from mine in every other aspect. Yet come forth from the hands of God a perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guarded with the especial care of his Creator. He was allowed to converse with and acquire knowledge from beings of superior nature. I was wretched, helpless, and alone. Many times I considered Satan as the fitter emblem of my condition, but often, like him, when I viewed the bliss of my protectors, the bitter gall of envy rose within me. So, So we're back with the I kill people because my dad was mean to me, yeah. So, I am not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. I am not sure if I'm remembering this correctly. But I think I think the bride of Frankenstein also normally comes from Frankenstein. Like, most people adapt the story, the idea of the bride of Frankenstein, from the second half of Frankenstein. Because we're kind of already getting the I need Eve vibes. we're already getting the Andrew Tate vibes from our little monster here. And yeah, we're back with this parasocial job of a monster. Another circumstance strengthened and confirmed these feelings. Soon after my arrival in the hovel, I discovered some papers in the pocket of the dress which I had taken from your laboratory. Yeah, our parasocial mess. At first I had neglected them, but now I was able to decipher the characters in which they were written. I began to study them with diligence. It was your journal of the 4 months that preceded my creation. You minutely described in these papers every step you took in the progress of your work. This history was mingled with accounts of domestic occurrences. You doubtless recollect these papers. Here they are. Everything is related in them which bears reference to my accursed origin. The whole detail of that series of disgusting circumstances which produced it is set in view. The minutest description of my odious and loathsome person is given, in language which painted your own horrors and rendered mine indelible. I sickened as I read. Hateful day when I received life, I exclaimed in agony. Accursed creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God in pity made man beautiful and alluring after his own image, but my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan had his companions, fellow devils to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred. Oh wow, that's actually a good point. Satan did have, like, friends. Even Satan had friends, dude. These were the reflections of my hours of despondency and solitude. But when I contemplated the virtues of the cottagers, their amiable and benevolent dispositions, I persuaded myself that when they should become acquainted with my admiration of their virtues, they would compassionate me, overlook my personal deformity. Could they turn from their door one, however monstrous, who solicited their compassion and friendship? I resolved at least not to despair, but in every way fit myself for an interview with them, which would decide my fate. I postponed this attempt for months longer, for the importance attached to its success inspired me with the dread lest I should fail. Besides, I found that my understanding improved so much with every day's experience that I was unwilling to commence this undertaking until a few more months should have added to my sagacity. Subtle changes in the meantime took place in the cottage. The presence of Sapphi diffused happiness among its inhabitants, and I also found that a greater degree of plenty reigned here. Felix and Agatha spent more time in amusement and conversation, and were assisted in their labors by servants. They did not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. The feelings were serene and peaceful, while mine became every day more tumultuous. Increase of knowledge only discovered to me more clearly that a wretched outcast I was. I cherished hope, it is true, but it vanished when I beheld my person reflected in water, or my shadow in moonshine, even as that frail image and inconstant shade. I endeavored to crush these fears and fortify myself for the trial in which a few months I resolved to undergo. and sometimes allowed my thoughts unchecked by reason to ramble in fields of paradise and dare to fancy amiable and lovely creatures sympathizing with my feelings, and sharing my gloom, their angelic countenances breathed smiles of consolation. But it was all a dream. No Eve soothed my sorrows, nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his Creator, but where was mine? He had abandoned me, and in bareness of my heart I cursed him. Autumn passed thus. I saw with surprise and grief the leaves decay and fall, and nature again assumed the barren and bleak appearance it had worn when I first beheld the woods and the lovely moon. Yet I did not heed the bleakness of the winter. I was better fitted by my conformation for the endurance of cold than heat. But my chief delights were the sight of flowers, the birds, and all the gay apparel of summer. When those deserted me, I turned with more attention towards the cottagers. Their happiness was not decreased by the absence of summer. They loved and sympathized with one another in their joys, depending on each other. Were not interrupted by causalities that took place around them. The more I saw them, the greater became my desire to claim their protection and kindness. My heart yearned to be known and loved by these amiable creatures. To see their sweet looks directed towards me with affection was utmost the limit of my ambition. I dare not think they would turn from me with disdain and horror. The poor that stopped at their door were never driven away. I asked, it is true, for greater treasures than a little food or rest. I required kindness and sympathy. I did not believe myself utterly unworthy of it. You still need to get that Frankenstein parasocial Twitch version. Exactly. Parasocial Twitch Frankenstein. Sorry, I was drinking water. Let me do a little sniffle. Sorry. It is the change of the seasons. It is the season of the bitch. And the bitch is causing me allergies and bad nasal stuff. Okay, so we're learning that Frankenstein's about to make a mistake. Frankenstein about to make a mistake. The winter advanced, and an entire revolution of the seasons had taken place since I awoke into life. My attention at this time was solely directed towards my plan of introducing myself into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved many projects. That on which I finally fixed was to enter the dwelling when the blind old man should be alone. I had the sagacity enough to discover that the unnatural hideousness of my person was the chief object of horror with those who had formerly beheld me. My voice, although harsh, had nothing terrible in it. I thought, therefore, that if, in the absence of his children, I could gain the goodwill and the mediation of the old De Lacy, I might, by his means, be tolerated by my younger protectors. Oh no, here it comes. This is about to get sad. One day, when the sun shone on red leaves that strewed the ground and diffused cheerfulness, although it denied warmth, Sapphy, Agatha, and Felix departed on a long country walk, and the old man, at his own desire, was left alone in the cottage. When his children had departed, he took up his guitar and played several mournful but sweet airs, more sweet and mournful than I had ever heard him play before. At first his countenance was illuminated with pleasure, but as he continued, thoughtfulness and sadness succeeded. At length, laying aside the instrument, he sat absorbed in his reflection. My heart beat quick. This was the hour and moment of trial, which would decide my hopes or realize my fears. The servants were gone to a neighboring fair. All was silent in and around the cottage. It was an excellent opportunity, yet when I proceeded to execute my plan, my limbs failed me, and I sank to the ground. Again I rose, exerting all the firmness of which I was master, removed the plank which I placed before my hovel to conceal my retreat. The fresh air revived me with renewed determination, and with renewed determination, I approached the door of the cottage. I knocked. "Who is there?" said the old man. "Come in." I entered. "Pardon this intrusion," said I. "I am a traveler in want of a little rest. You would greatly oblige me if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire." "Enter," said Lacey, "and I will try in a manner I can relieve your wants. Unfortunately, my children are from home, and as I am blind, I am afraid I shall find it difficult to procure food for you." "Do not trouble yourself, my kind host. I have food. It is warmth and rest only that I need." I sat down, and a silence ensued. I knew that every minute was precious to me, yet I remained irresolute in what manner to commence the interview, and the old man addressed me. "By your language, stranger, I suppose you are my countrymen. Are you French?" "No, but I was educated by a French family, and understand that language only. I am now going to claim the protection of some friends whom I sincerely love, and of whose favor I have some hopes." "Are they German?" "No, they are French, but let us change the subject. I am an unfortunate and deserted creature. I look around and have no relation or friend upon earth. These amiable people to whom I go have never seen me, and know little of me. I am full of fears, for if I fail there, I am an outcast in the world forever." "Do not despair. To be friendless is indeed to be unfortunate. But the hearts of men, when unprejudiced by any obvious self-interest, are full of brotherly love and charity. Rely therefore on your hopes, and if these friends are good and amiable, do not despair. Oh no. They are kind, they are the most excellent creatures in the world. But unfortunately they are prejudiced against me. I have good dispositions, my life has been hitherto harmless, and in some degree beneficial. But a fatal prejudice clouds their eyes, and where they ought to see feeling and kind friend, they behold only a detestable monster. That is indeed unfortunate, but if you are really blameless, you cannot undeceive them. I am about to undertake that task. It is on that account I feel so many overwhelming terrors. I tenderly love these friends. I have, unknown to them, been for many months in the habit of daily kindness towards them. But they believe that I wish to injure them, and it is that prejudice which I wish to overcome." "Where do these friends reside?" "Near this spot." The old man paused and then continued. "If you will unreservedly confide to me the particulars of your tale, I perhaps may be in use of undeceiving them. I am blind, and cannot judge of your countenance, but there is something in your words which persuades me that you are sincere. I am poor and an exile, but it will afford me true pleasure to be in any way serviceable to a human creature." "Excellent man, I thank you and accept your generous offer. You raise me from the dust by this kindness, and trust that by your aid I shall not be driven from society and sympathy of your fellow creatures." "Heaven forbid! Even if you were really criminal, for that can only drive you to desperation and not instigate you to virtue. I also am unfortunate. I and my family have been condemned, although innocent, judge, therefore, if I do not feel for your misfortunes." "How can I thank you, my best and only benefactor? From your lips first, I heard the voice of kindness directed towards me. I shall be forever grateful, and your present humanity assures me of success with those friends whom I am on the point of meeting. May I know the names and residence of those friends?" I paused. This, I thought, was the moment of decision, which was to rob me of, or bestow happiness on me forever. I struggled vainly for firmness sufficient enough to answer him, but the effort destroyed all my remaining strength. I sank on the chair and sobbed aloud. At that moment I had the steps of my younger protectors. I had not a moment to lose, but seizing the hand of the old man, I cried, "Now is the time. Save and protect me. You and your family are the friends whom I seek. Do not desert me in the hour of trial." Oh no. "Great God," exclaimed the old man, "who are you?" At that instant, the cottage doors opened, and Felix, Safi, and Agatha entered. Who can describe the horror and consternation on beholding me? Agatha fainted, and Safi, unable to attend to her friend, rushed out of the cottage. Felix started forward, and with supernatural force tore me from his father, to whose knees I clung. In a transport of fury, he dashed me to the ground, struck me violently with a stick. I could have torn him limb from limb as the lion rends the antelope, but my heart sunk within me as with bitter sickness, and I refrained. I saw him on the point of repeating his blow, when overcome by pain and anguish I quitted the cottage, and in the general tumult escaped unperceived to my hovel. Oh God. He really couldn't have just said it. He really just, I mean, he said it, but he took too much time. He said it, but he took too much time. So the parasocialness is ending. He's had a dose of reality. His idols aren't idols. His idols saw him, and they were like, no. They said no to his parasocial bet. They said no. But we can see that he's, that he, like, he's telling this in past tense because all this already happened, and he is, like, he is, admonishing himself for being stupid. He's admonishing himself for being the way he is. Because he was like, I should have been smarter about this. So, like, he knows what he did was technically, like, not wrong, but, like, he took too much time. And I think, like, I think he might have approached it wrong as well. Like, he talked around how he was helping them. Like, I think if he was more direct, this wasn't the best idea. Yeah. This was not the best idea. But, yeah, he was like, oh, I made a boo-boo. But, like, he's realized that, like, what would have been better if he started talking, kind of hinted more towards that he was the helpful force spirit. I think the old man, if the children didn't walk in, if his kids didn't walk in, this may have had a different outcome. But Mary Shelley was like, nah, he's suffering. Our monster is suffering. Like, imagine your life could have been totally different if those people didn't walk in. Imagine there was, like, a point in your life where someone came in through the door and that literally changed your life. Because that's what happened to Frankenstein. Because we all know that making people think you're a helpful spirit is how you befriend them. Exactly. Make everyone think you're a helpful forest spirit and then try to befriend them. Like, yeah, it works. It's very witchy. It works. Trust me. It works. Trust me. But like, yeah, he built up the idea in his head, and then that just kind of fell through. But on to chapter 16. Cursed creator, why did I live? Why in that instant did I not extinguish the spark of existence which you had so wantonly bestowed? I know not, despair had not taken possession of me. My feelings were those of rage and revenge. I could with pleasure have destroyed the cottage and its inhabitants, have glutted myself with their shrieks and misery. When night came, I quitted my retreat and wandered in the wood, and now, no longer restrained by fear of discovery, I gave vent to my anguish in fearful howlings. I was like a wild beast that had broken the toils, destroying the objects that obstructed me, raging through the wood with stag-like swiftness. Oh, what a miserable night I passed. The cold stars shone in mockery, and the bare trees waved their branches above me. Now and then the sweet voice of a bird burst forth amidst the universal stillness. All save I were at rest or in enjoyment. I, like the arch-fiend, bore hell within me, and finding myself unsympathized with, wished to tear up trees and spread havoc and destruction around me, and then to have sat down and enjoyed the ruin. But this was a luxury of sensation that could not endure. I became fatigued with excess of bodily exertion, and sank on the damp grass in sick impotence of despair. There were none among the myriads of men that existed who would pity or assist me. And should I feel kindness towards my enemies? No. From that moment I declared everlasting war against the species, and more than all, against him who had formed me and sent me forth to this insupportable misery. The sun rose, I heard the voices of men, and knew that it was impossible to return to my retreat during that day. Accordingly, I hid myself in some thick underwood, determining to devote the ensuing hours to reflection on my situation. What a rational and well-adjusted response! Exactly! So rational. Destroy the forest. Just absolute rage. This wasn't meat cute. It was meat. It was meat ugly. That was meat hideous. That was meat with an A. That was rotting meat. The pleasant sunshine and pure air of day restored me to some degree of tranquility. And when I considered what had passed at the cottage, I could not help believing I had been too hasty in my conclusions. I had certainly acted imprudently. It was apparent that my conversation had interested the father in my behalf, and I was a fool in having exposed my person to the horror of his children. I ought to have familiarized the old De Lacy to me, and by degrees to have discovered myself to the rest of his family. They should have been prepared for my approach. But I did not believe my errors to be irretrievable, and after much consideration, I resolved to return to the cottage, seek the old man, and by my representations, win him to my party. Oh no. We're doubling down on the mistake. These thoughts calmed me. In the afternoon, I sank into a profound sleep, but the fever of my blood did not allow me to be visited by peaceful dreams. The horrible scene of the preceding day was forever acting before my eyes. The females were flying, and the enraged Felix tearing me down from his father's feet. I awoke exhausted, and finding that it was already night, I crept forth from my hiding place and went in search of food. When my hunger was appeased, I directed my steps towards the well-known path that conducted to the cottage. All there was at peace. I crept into my hovel and remained in silent expectation of the accustomed hour when the family arose. The hour passed, the sun mounted high in the heavens, but the cottagers did not appear. I trembled violently, apprehending some dreadful misfortune. The inside of the cottage was dark, and I had no motion. I cannot describe the agony of this suspense. Presently, 2 countrymen passed by, but pausing near the cottage, they entered into conversation, using violent gesticulations. But I did not understand what they said, as they spoke the language of the country, which differed from that of my protectors. Soon after, Felix approached with another man. I was surprised, as I knew that he had not quitted the cottage that morning, and waited anxiously to discover from his discourse the meaning of these unusual appearances. "Do you consider," said his companion to him, "that you will be obliged to pay 3 months' rent, and lose the produce of your garden? I do not wish to take any unfair advantage, and I beg, therefore, that you will take some days to consider of your determination." "It is utterly useless," replied Felix. "We can never again inhabit your cottage. The life of my father is in greatest danger, owing to the dreadful circumstance that I have related. My wife and my sister will never recover their horror. I entreat you not to reason with me any more. Take possession of your tenement, and let me fly from this place." Felix trembled violently as he said this. He and his companion entered the cottage, in which they remained for a few minutes, and then departed. I never saw any of the family of De Lacy more. Sorry. I continued for the remainder of the day in my hovel in a state of utter and stupid despair. My protectors had departed, and had broken the only link that held me to the world. For the first time, the feelings of revenge and hatred filled my bosom. I did not strive to control them, but allowing myself to be borne away by the stream. I bent my mind towards injury and death. When I thought of my friends, of the mild voice of De Lacy, the gentle eyes of Agatha, and the exquisite beauty of the Arabian, these thoughts vanished, and a gush of tears somewhat soothed me. But again, when I reflected that they had spurned and deserted me, anger returned, a rage of anger, and unable to injure anything human, I turned my fury towards inanimate objects. As night advanced, I placed a variety of combustibles around the cottage, and after having destroyed every vestige of cultivation in the garden, I waited with forced impatience until the moon had sunk to commence my operations. As the night advanced, a fierce wind arose from the woods, quickly dispersed the clouds that had loitered in the heavens. The blast tore through like a mighty avalanche, and produced a kind of insanity in my spirits that burst all bounds of reason and reflection. I lighted the dry branch of a tree and danced with fury around the devoted cottage, and my eyes still fixed on the western horizon, the edge of which the moon nearly touched. A part of its orb was at length hid, and I waved my brand. It sunk, and with a loud scream I fired the straw, the heath, and bushes, which I had collected. The wind fanned the fire, and the cottage was quickly enveloped by the flames, which clung to it and licked it with their forked and destroying tongues. As soon as I was convinced that no assistance could save any part of the habitation, I quitted the scene and sought for refuge in the woods. And now, with the world before me, and whither should I bend my steps, I resolved to fly far from the scene of my misfortunes. But to me, hated and despised, every country must be equally horrible. At length the thought of you crossed my mind. I learned from your papers that you were my father, my creator, to whom I could apply with more fitness than to him who had given me life. Hold on, wait, I screwed that up. I learned from your papers that you were my father, my creator, and to whom I could apply with more fitness than to him who had given me life. Among the lessons that Felix bestowed upon Safie, Geography had not been omitted. I learned from these the relative situations of different countries of the earth. You had mentioned Geneva as the name of your native town, and towards this place I resolved to proceed. Oh no, he is like truly parasocial now. He is like doxing. He's using information. But how was I to direct myself? I knew I must travel in a southwesterly fashion to reach my destination. But the sun was my only guide. I did not know the names of the towns that I was to pass through, nor could I ask information from a single human being. But I did not despair. From you only could I hope for succor. Although towards you I felt no sentiment of that hate, but that of hatred. Unfeeling, heartless creator, you endowed me with perceptions. You had endowed me with perceptions and passions, and then cast me abroad an object of scorn and horror of mankind. But on you only had I any claim for pity and redress. And from you I determined to seek that justice which I vainly attempted to gain from any other being that wore the human form. My trials were long and the sufferings I endured intense. It was late in autumn when I quitted the district where I had so long resided. I traveled only at night, fearful of encountering the visage of a human being. Nature decayed around me, and the sun became heatless. Rain and snow poured around me, mighty rivers were frozen. The surface of the earth was hard and chill and bare, and I found no shelter. O earth, how often did I imprecate curses on the cause of my being. The mildness of my nature had fled, and all within me was turned to gall and bitterness. The nearer I approached to your habitation, the more deeply did I feel the spirit of revenge enkindled in my heart. Snow fell, and the waters were hardened, but I rested not. A few incidents now and then directed me, and I possessed a map of the country. I often wandered wide from my path. The agony of my feeling allowed me no respite. No incident occurred from which my rage and misery could not extract its food. A circumstance that happened when I arrived on the confines of Switzerland, when the sun had recovered its warmth, and the earth again began to look green, confirmed in an especial manner the bitterness and horror of my feelings. I generally rested during the day and traveled only when I was secured by night from the view of man. One morning, however, finding that my path lay through a deep wood, I ventured to continue my journey after the sun had risen. The day, which was one of the first of spring, cheered even me by the loveliness of its sunshine and the balminess of the air. I felt emotions of gentleness and pleasure that had long appeared dead revive within me. Half surprised by the novelty of these sensations, I allowed myself to be borne away by them, and forgetting my solitude and deformity, dared to be happy. Soft tears again bedewed my cheeks, and even I raised my human eyes with thankfulness towards the blessed sun which bestowed such joy upon me. Oh no, this is where he kills Victor's little brother. That's what I'm getting. That's what this is feeling. How emo. How pastel emo. He's feeling happiness again. That's actually opposite of emo, I think. For once, I feel happy. Okay, yeah. How you put it like... Now you put it like that. Yeah, that's very emo. Very emo. I continued... Hold on. I continued to wind among the paths... I continued to wind among the paths of the wood until I came to its boundary, which was skirted by a deep and rapid river, to which many of the trees bent, their branches now budding with fresh spring. Here I paused, not exactly knowing what a path to pursue, when I heard the sound of voices that induced me to conceal myself under the shade of a cypress. I was scarcely hid when a young girl came running towards the spot, towards the spot where I was concealed. laughing as if she ran from someone in sport. Laughing as if she ran from someone in sport. She continued her course among the precipitous sides of the river, and suddenly her foot slipped, and she fell into the rapid stream. I rushed from my hiding place, and with extreme labor from the force of the current, I saved her and dragged her to shore. She was senseless, and I endeavored, by every means in my power, to restore animation. I was suddenly interrupted by the approach of a rustic. It was probably the person from whom she had playfully fled. On seeing me, he darted towards me, and tearing the girl from my arms, hastened towards the deeper parts of the wood. I followed speedily, I hardly knew why, but when the man saw me draw near, he aimed a gun, which he carried, at my body and fired. I sunk to the ground, and with my injurer, with increased swiftness, escaped into the wood. This was then the reward of my benevolence. I had saved a human being from destruction. As recompense, I now writhed under miserable pain of a wound, which shattered the flesh and bone. The feelings of kindness and gentleness which I had entertained but a few moments before gave place to hellish rage and gnashing of teeth. Inflamed by pain, I vowed eternal hatred and vengeance to all mankind. But the agony of my wound overcame me. My pulses paused, and I fainted. For some weeks, I led a miserable life in the woods, endeavoring to cure the wound which I had received. The ball had entered my shoulder, and I knew not whether it had remained there or passed through. At any rate, I had no means of extracting it. My sufferings were augmented by the oppressive sense of injustice and ingratitude of their infliction. My daily vows rose for revenge, a deep and deadly revenge, such as would alone compensate for the outrages and anguish I had endured. After some weeks my wound healed, and I continued my journey. The labors I endured were no longer to be alleviated by the bright sun or gentle breezes of spring. All joy was but a mockery, which insulted my desolate state and made me feel more painfully that I was not made for the enjoyment of pleasure. But my toils now drew near a close, and in 2 months from this time, I reached the environs of Geneva. It was evening when I arrived, and I returned to a hiding place among the fields that surround it, to meditate in what manner I should apply to you. I was oppressed by fatigue and hunger, and far too unhappy to enjoy the gentle breezes of evening, or the prospect of the sun setting behind the stupendous mountains of Jura. At this time, a slight sleep relieved me from the pain of reflection, which was disturbed by the approach of a beautiful child, who came running into the recess I had chosen, with all the sportiveness of infancy. Suddenly, as I gazed on him, an idea seized me, that this little creature was unprejudiced, and lived too short a time to have imbibed a horror of deformity. If, therefore, I could seize him, and educate him as my companion and friend, I should not be so desolate in this peopled earth. Urged by this impulse, I seized on the boy as he passed, and drew him towards me. As soon as he beheld my form, he placed his hands before my eyes, and uttered a shrill scream. I drew his hand forcibly from his face and said, "Child, what is the meaning of this? I do not intend to hurt you. Listen to me." He struggled violently. "Let me go," he cried. "Monster, ugly wretch, you wish to eat me and tear me to pieces. You are an ogre. Let me go, or I will tell my papa." "Boy, you will never see your father again. You must come with me." "Hideous monster, let me go. My papa is a syndic. He is Frankenstein. He will punish you. You dare not keep me." "Frankenstein? You belong then to my enemy, to him towards I whom swore an eternal revenge. You shall be my first victim. The child still struggled and loaded me with epithets which carried despair to my heart. I grasped his throat to silence him. In a moment he lay dead at my feet. So, warning, child death. I gazed on my victim, and my heart swelled with exultation and hellish triumph. Clapping my hands, I exclaimed, I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable. This death will carry despair to him. 1,000 other miseries shall torment and destroy him. As I fixed my eyes on the child, I saw something glittering on his breast. I took it as a portrait of a most lovely woman. In spite of my malignity, it softened and attracted me. For a few moments I gazed with delight on her dark eyes, fringed by deep lashes, and her lovely lips. But presently my rage returned. I remembered that I was forever deprived of the delights of such beautiful creatures could bestow. That she whose resemblance I contemplated would, in regarding me, have changed that air of divine benignity to one of expressive disgust and affright. Can you wonder that such thoughts transported me with rage? I only wonder at that moment, instead of venting my sensations in exclamations in agony, I did not rush among mankind and perish in the attempt to destroy them. I was overcome by these feelings. I left the spot where I committed the murder, and seeking a more secluded hiding place, I entered a barn which appeared to me empty. A woman was sleeping on some straw. She was young, not indeed so beautiful as whose portrait I held, but of an agreeable aspect, and blooming in the loveliness of youth and health. Here I thought, it's one of those joy-imparting smiles I bestowed on all but me, and then I bent over her and whispered, Awake, fairest, thy lover is near. He who would give his life but to obtain one look of affection from thine eyes. My beloved, awake. The sleeper stirred. A thrill of terror ran through me. Should she indeed awake and see me and curse me and denounce the murderer? Thus would she assuredly act. Her darkened eyes opened and she beheld me. The thought was madness. It stirred the fiend within me. Not I, but she shall suffer. The murder I have committed because I am forever robbed of all that she could give. She shall atone. The crime had source in her. Be hers the punishment. Thanks to the lessons of Felix and the sanguinary laws of man, I had learned now to work mischief. I bent over her and placed the portrait securely in one of the folds of her dress. She moved again, and I fled. That's a good line. I had learned now to work mischief. That's an amazing line. For some days, I haunted the spot where these scenes had taken place, sometimes wishing to see you, sometimes resolved to quit the world and its miseries forever. At length, I wandered these mountains, and have ranged their immense recesses, consumed by a burning passion which you alone can gratify. We may not part until you promise to comply with my requisition. I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me. But one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create. So, yeah. We have the bride of the monster. The Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein both originated in Frankenstein, though I'm not actually sure. Let me look it up. Oh, Tamagotchi. Stretch. Stretch. You at home, please stretch. Is it raining in real life, too? I don't think it is. Oh, that's just the echo of, that's just the echo of stuff in my ears. Yeah, that's the echo of the computer. No worries. Hmm. So, yeah. Like, I already knew what happens. I think we all always saw it coming when we saw the, Eve come up. When we saw Eve come up. So, like, he, he wants a girl. He wants a girl. So, so that's happening. He went from being parasocial to build me a woman. Okay, so hold up. So, yeah, it follows. So the Bride of Frankenstein is sorta inspired by Frankenstein itself. So like, yeah, like that's why I thought. That's why I thought that it's two, both of these like these classic horrors came from the same book, which is very interesting. You would think that the Bride of Frankenstein would be like from a different book or from a sequel with how it's treated and how the bride herself has become her own creature. How the bride herself has become its own, yeah. The the original Bride of Frankenstein movie is very embellished, and they're mentioning like characters that's not even in this book. Like, yeah. I'm pretty sure the Bride of Frankenstein was just a cash grab. Because I don't Because I'm trying to remember the adaptation, the manga adaptation by Junji Ito. I don't think the bride is really that important. But it's very interesting to see how they will, like, take things and those things will get a life of their own. Because, like, now the Bride of Frankenstein is something you see actively referenced. And, like, the bride herself is her own classic movie character, and you will see her. She has become her own thing. Like, you see her in like Hotel Transylvania, I think, and like, and I'm like pretty sure in Monster Prom, in the Monster Prom games, there is a female. Like whenever you see female Frankenstein things, they will take some elements of both Frankenstein and Frankenstein's Bride. I like both Frankenstein's monster and Frankenstein's Bride. I'm sorry, even I sometimes call the monster Frankenstein. But like, yeah, it's very interesting to see how not really important the Bride of Frankenstein, the Bride of the Monster is in the actual story. But she has become her own character in her own right outside of the story. Yeah, most of what people know about Frankenstein's monster is through the movie. Yeah, like, people don't know it's kind of like alchemy and necromancy. I don't think people know all these things. I don't think people know that there is the Elizabeth or Agatha. I think most people just know, and most people don't know that Frankenstein's monster is pretty intelligent. I don't like that all he wants is a woman, but still, it was the 1800s. Even though Mary Shelley was hanging out with, like, pansexual partiers, people still were getting married. Plus, not to mention, to be fair, I will say this. Frankenstein was... the monster was actively watching a heterosexual relationship. And, like, what he knew, what he was experiencing was... Felix was in love with Sapphy. And the father character had a wife at some point, so she was probably talked about. So Frankenstein only knew of male-female relationships. Even though that's never been just the case. That has never been just the case. So, like, it's not surprising when, like, you're only... Like, if you're... Like, this it feels very, like, queer-coded. That Frankenstein thinks he's heterosexual. That Frankenstein's normal thing is that he's only watched heterosexual people, but he feels different. That is very queer-coded. That's very queer-coded. Mary Shelley gained their weird queer feeling before it was even a thing. But yeah, that feels very queer-coded. I need to be with a woman. Make me a woman. But what if you're a gay, Frankenstein? It's what I know. It's all I know. But yeah, okay. Oh no, I'm losing the thread. I'm losing the thread. Now we're on chapter 17. The next Final Fantasy. Okay. Like I said, I'm gonna stream until 11 tonight, I think. But we're on chapter 17 and we are going back to, actually we're going back to Victor's POV. We're going back to Victor's POV. It took us long enough. The being finished speaking and fixed his looks upon me in expectation of reply. But I was bewildered, perplexed, and unable to arrange my thoughts, my ideas sufficiently to understand the full extent of his proposition. He continued. You must create a female for me, with whom I can live in the interchange of those sympathies necessary for my being. This alone you can do, and I demand it of you as a right which you must not refuse to concede. The latter part of his tale had kindled anew in me anger that had died away while he narrated his peaceful life among cottagers. As he said this, I could no longer suppress the rage that burned within me. I do refuse it, I replied, and no torture shall ever extort a consent from me. You may render me the most miserable of men, but you shall never make me base in my own eyes. Shall I create another like yourself, whose joint wickedness may desolate the world? Begone, I have answered you. You may torture me, but I will never consent. You are in the wrong, replied the fiend, and instead of threatening, I am content to reason with you. I am malicious because I am miserable. Am I not shunned and hated by all mankind? You, my creator, would tear me to pieces and triumph. Remember that, and tell me why I should pity man more than he pities me. You would not call it murder if you could precipitate me into one of those ice swifts and destroy my frame, the work of your own hands? Sorry, I need to do something. I'm doing it while I do this. I just need to wipe off my glasses. Shall I respect man when he condemns me? Let him live in the interchange of kindness, and instead of injury, I will bestow every benefit upon him with tears of gratitude at his acceptance. But that cannot be. The human senses are insurmountable barriers to our union. Yet mine shall not be the submission of abject slavery. I shall revenge my injuries, If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear, and chiefly towards you, my arch enemy, because, my creator, do I swear inextinguishable hatred. Have a care, I will work at your destruction, nor finish until I desolate your heart, so that you shall curse the hour of your birth. My glasses clean? It's enough. A fiendish rage animated him as he said this. His face was wrinkled into contortions too heavy for human eyes to behold. But he presently calmed himself and proceeded. I intend to reason. This passion is detrimental for me, for you do not reflect that you are the cause of its excess. If any being felt emotions of benevolence towards me, I shall return them 100 and 100-fold. For that one creature's sake I would make peace with the whole kind, but I now indulge in dreams of bliss that cannot be realized. What I ask of you is reasonable and moderate. I demand a creature of another sex, but as hideous as myself. The gratification is small, but is all that I can receive, and shall content me, it is true. We shall be monsters, cut off from the world, but on that account we shall be more attached to one another. Our lives will not be happy, they will be harmless and free from the misery I now feel. Oh, my creator, make me happy. Let me feel gratitude towards you for one benefit. Let me see that I excite the sympathy of some existing thing, and do not deny me my request. I was moved. I shuddered when I thought of the possible consequences of my consent. I felt there was some justice in his argument. His tale, and the feelings he now expressed, proved him to be a creature of fine sensations, and I did not, as his maker, owe him all the portion of happiness that was in my power to bestow. He saw my change of feeling and continued, If you consent, neither you nor any other human being shall ever see us again. I shall go to the vast wilds of South America. My food is not that of man. I do not destroy the lamb and the kid to glut my appetite. Acorns and berries afford me sufficient nourishment. My companion will be of the same nature as myself, and will be content with the same fare. We shall make our bed of dry leaves, and the sun will shine on us as on man, and will ripen our food. The picture I present to you is peaceful and human, and you must feel that you could deny it in only the wantonness of power and cruelty. Pitiless as you have been towards me, I now see compassion in your eyes. Let me seize the favorable moment and persuade you to promise what I so ardently desire. You propose, replied I, to fly from the habitations of man, to dwell in those wilds where beasts of the field will be your only companions. How can you, who long and love for the sympathy of man and persevere in this exile, you will return and again seek their kindness. You will meet their detestation. Your evil passions will be renewed, and you will then have a companion to aid you in the task of destruction. This may not be. Cease to argue this point, for I cannot consent. Oh sure, hate Dr. Frankenstein until you need something from him, right? He could have really just solved all these issues if he just killed him. How inconstant are your feelings, but a moment ago you were moved by my representations. And why do you again harden yourself to my complaints? I swear to you, by the earth which I inhabit, by you that made me, that with the companion you bestow, I'll quit the neighborhood of man, and dwell as it may chance in the most savage of places. My evil passions will have fled, for I shall meet with sympathy. My life will flow quietly away, and in my dying moments I shall not curse my maker. Hey Dad, I want a girlfriend. That's so weird. Hey Dad, can you make me a sister girlfriend? yeah, this is also like hitting God territory with Frankenstein. Because of how like, yeah, can you please create me a girlfriend who would technically also be my sister since you are my father? That gives me definitely very, oh, the gods were siblings, but then they got married. So now they're sister, wife, and husband brother. Hmm. Delicious mythology incest. And again, I also in my back to what I was saying earlier, how Frankenstein, how the monsters only examples of relationships or heterosexual opposite sex. He did read about Adam and Eve, and and he probably read Paradise Lost. I'm not sure Paradise Lost has like anti-homosexual stuff. I don't think it does. That was back before that bullshit, I think. But you read about Adam and Eve, so I think that would probably be where he's getting his stuff. So that might be why he's like jonesing for a girlfriend. His words had a strange effect on me. I compassionated him, and sometimes felt a wish to console him. But when I looked upon, hey, welcome in, Nada. Welcome in. Welcome in. I will do a shout out. Everyone, welcome in, Nado, the Bat VTuber, one of the cutest Bat VTubers ever. Go check him out. What are you doing, Nada? What are you doing? Tell me. We are reading Frankenstein right now. Screech! Screech! That crew crash landing. Screech! That crew crash landing. Screech! 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 Thank you, Nada. Welcome in, welcome in. I hope everyone's having a good time. We are being nice and chill. And we are reading Frankenstein with some nice Victorian ambience. And I'm also going over stuff as I read it, because I like to do that. But welcome in, welcome in. Welcome in, Helix, welcome in. Yes, I was just going over, why Frankenstein wants a girlfriend and not a boyfriend. Though Frankenstein is just already inherently very, very queer. But yes, everyone, if you don't already follow NATO VT, please go follow them. They are also, NATO is also in a Bat crew with a bunch of other VTubers. And it's a Bat thing. All Bat VTubers just need to know each other. But welcome in Helix, welcome in NATO. But feel free to lurk. We're just chilling, going over Frankenstein and like modern interpretations. We have hit the point where Frankenstein is like, Dad, make me a girlfriend. Which is what birthed the Bride of Frankenstein. Yes, it's a very bad thing. All that VTubers know each other. We just know. Yeah, there's Merryweather, there's Hoachi, there's NATO, there's me. I can probably go on. But yes, we were going over the inherent heterosexuality, that very, very gay Frankenstein. And not to mention the idea of creating life without a woman is very queer-coded. There's way more intelligent takes on this, like, I'm doing this on the fly, but there are people who have, like, gone wholly over the gayness of Frankenstein. Actually, oh, I just know about the Frankie movie iteration. Oh, yeah, so you know... Oh, I just hit my mic. Okay. Both Frankenstein the movie and The Bride of Frankenstein came from the same book. two horror movie legends came from the same book. But yeah, highly recommend checking. We're nearing the we're semi close to the end. We're like 3/5 into the book. Yeah, yeah. Both Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein came from the same book. Like we're just about to go over that. Yeah, the Bride of Frankenstein took more creative liberties in the movie because they had to. What I'm assuming is that they took events from the book and mushed them around because I haven't seen the original Frankenstein movie. So like they probably mushed around events and falsified some of them. Took a lot of creative liberties with those. And then they took even more creative liberties with Bride of Frankenstein. but yeah, we're going through. We are about to return. Let's see here. Where the hell was I? I think I was on this paragraph. But yeah, like, Frankenstein's like, I don't think any of the iterations of Frankenstein, like, there's a Junji Ito adaptation. I really recommend the Junji Ito adaptation. Like, he has a manga. I think it's in one of his short stories, I think. But I really highly recommend reading the original book because this is actually really lovingly written. Yeah, most iterations of Frankenstein take the movie, not the book. Because Frankenstein in the book is the monster. The monster is really really intelligent, really wise, very parasocial. This book is surprisingly modern. Like it's from late 1800s. But it's like Frankenstein is parasocial. Oh my god, he's so parasocial. Frankenstein be so parasocial up in here. It's very clear, very modern. I love it. His words had a strange effect on me. I compassionated him, and sometimes felt a wish to console him. But when I looked upon him, when I saw the filthy mass that moved and talked, my heart sickened. My feelings were altered to those of horror and hatred. I tried to stifle these sensations. I thought that I could not sympathize with him. I had no right to withhold from him the small portion of happiness which was yet in my power to bestow. You swear, I said, to be harmless. But have you not always shown a degree of malice that could reasonably make me distrust you? May not even this be a feint that will increase your triumph by affording a wider scope for your revenge? How is this? I must not be trifled with, and I demand an answer. If I have no ties and no affection, hatred and vice must be my portion. The love of another will destroy the cause of my crimes, and I shall become a thing of whose existence everyone will be ignorant. My vices are the children of a forced solitude that I abhor, and my virtues will necessarily arise when I live in communion with an equal. I shall feel the affection. Hold up. Water. Bat sips. I shall feel the affections of a sensitive being and become linked to the chain of existence and events, from which I am now excluded. I paused some time to reflect on all he had related, and the various arguments which he had employed. I thought of the promise of virtues which he had displayed on the opening of his existence, the subsequent blight of all kindly feeling by loathing and scorn which his protectors had manifested towards him. His power and threats were not omitted in my calculations. A creature who could exist in the ice caves of glaciers, and hide himself in pursuit among the ridges of inaccessible and hide himself from pursuit among the ridges of inaccessible precipices. And was a being possessing faculties it would be vain to cope with. After a long pause of reflection, I concluded that the justice due both to him and my fellow creatures demanded me I should comply with his request. Turning to him, therefore, I said, I consent to your demand, on your solemn oath to quit Europe forever, and every other place in this neighborhood of man, as soon as I shall deliver into your hands a female who will accompany you in your exile. I swear, he cried, by the sun and the blue sky of heaven, by the fire of love that burns my heart, that if you grant my prayer, while they exist, you shall never behold me again. Depart to your home and commence your labors. I shall watch their progress with unutterable anxiety, and fear not but that when you are ready I shall appear. Saying this, he suddenly quitted me, fearful perhaps of any change in my sentiments. I saw him descend the mountain with greater speed than the flight of an eagle, and quickly lost among the undulations of the sea of ice. Hold up. His tail had occupied the whole day, and the sun was upon the verge of the horizon when he departed. I knew that I ought to hasten my descent towards the valley, as I should be encompassed in darkness, but my heart was heavy and my steps slow. The labor of winding among the little paths of the mountains, and fixing my feet firmly as I advanced, perplexed me, occupied as I was by emotions which the occurrences of the day produced. Night was far advanced when I came halfway. Night was far advanced when I came to the halfway resting place, and seated myself beside the fountain. The stars shone at intervals as the clouds passed from over them. The dark pines rose before me, and every here and there a broken tree lay on the ground. It was a scene of wonderful solemnity, and stirred strange thoughts within me. I wept bitterly, and clasping my hands in agony, I exclaimed, "O stars and clouds and winds, you are all about to mock me. If ye really pity me, crush sensation and memory. Let me become as naught. Let me become as naught. But if not, depart, and leave me in darkness." These were wild and miserable thoughts. I cannot describe to you how the eternal twinkling. Oh my god. I cannot describe to you how the eternal twinkling of the stars weighed upon me, how I listened to every blast of wind, as if it were a dull, ugly siroc on its way to consume me. Morning dawned before I arrived at the village of Morning dawned on me before I arrived at the village of Bat screeches. Morning dawned before I arrived at the village of Chalmennix. I took no rest, but returned immediately to Geneva. Even in my own heart, I could give no expression to my sensations. They weighed on me with a mountain's weight, and their excess destroyed my agony beneath them. Thus I returned home, and entering the house, presented myself to the family. My haggard and wild appearance awoke a tense alarm. I answered no questions, scarcely did I speak. I felt as if I were placed under a ban, as if I had no right to claim their sympathies, as if never more might I enjoy companionship with them. Yet even thus I loved them to adoration, and to save them, I resolved to dedicate myself to my most abhorred task. The prospect of such an occupation made every other circumstance of existence pass before me like a dream, and that thought only had me the reality of life. Okay, so now we're creating the Bride of the Monster. The most horrible not only does Victor, not only does Victor create life once, he creates it twice, or well, he needs to create it a second time. He, which is very, very awful. Not to mention, the monster kind of keeps showing these horrible behaviors. It's like, oh, not only is the monster kind of like parasocial, like building up these relationships in his head, and thinking about, oh, this is how it's gonna play out, this is how it's gonna play out, and like, kind of accidentally ruining lives. He's also like, hey, build me a girlfriend, Dad, and not being like, I understand the thought processes of him. They're like, oh, this is gonna make me happy. It's kind of like, oh, my happiness is dependent on others. Which to be fair, again, there's a lot of queer-coded in Frankenstein. Like, he is a monster, kicked out of his own house, kicked out of his home, whose only, like, knowledge of love and romance is heterosexuality, even though that's not the only thing in the world. He goes back to his dad and is like, Dad, will you accept me if you make me a girlfriend? If I get a girlfriend, but you kind of have to make me a girlfriend? I know I just told you I hate you, but you're the reason I'm a serial killer, but can you make me a girlfriend? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Frankenstein and Victor have, like, a horrible toxic relationship. I need the toxic yaoi manga of this. I need the toxic yaoi manga version of this. Like, that would be absolutely delicious. Not even considering that Victor only has the gay best friend who has spent innumerable, like Victor got sick and his best friend decided, oh, I'm taking care of you. I'm taking care of you. Like, I need the toxic yaoi of this. It'd be so delicious. I might have to make the toxic yaoi of this. Okay, we're on chapter 18. Hold up. Sorry, I had to consort. apparently, the bat bathroom is still occupied somehow. I just keep imagining this in the context of content creators. So I need to, like, see how that'd be made. Say, I want toxic yaoi Frankenstein, and I want parasocial content creation Frankenstein. Maybe we can have both. Why not a taco? Toxic content creation Frankenstein. Oh no, I have to make that, don't I? I have to make that myself. Don't give me that smug look. Don't look at me with my own face. Oh no. Oh no, I have to make things. Oh no. Okay. Okay, okay. Okay, okay, we now are reading chapter 18. We are going to... I have to have this idea kicking around now. We're going to talk about this later. Okay, we're on chapter 18. Hold on. Drink. Stretch. Everyone at home, stretch. Stretch. Day after day, week after week, passed away on my return to Geneva, and I could not collect courage to recommence my work. I feared the vengeance of the disappointed fiend, and I was unable to overcome my repugnance to the task which was enjoined me. I found that I could not compose a female without again devoting several months to profound study and laborious disquisition. I had heard of some discoveries having been made by an English philosopher, knowledge of which was material to my success, and I sometimes thought of obtaining my father's consent to visit England for this purpose. Sigh. But I clung to every pretense of delay, and shrunk from taking the first step in an undertaking whose immediate necessity began to appear less absolute to me. A change indeed had taken place in me. My health, which had hitherto declined, was now much restored, and my spirits, when unchecked by the memory of my unhappy promise, rose proportionally. My father saw this change with pleasure, and turned his thoughts towards the best method of eradicating the remains of my melancholy, which every now and then would return by fits, with devouring blackness overcast the approaching sunshine. At these moments I took refuge in the most perfect solitude. I passed whole days on the lake alone in a little boat, watching the clouds and listening to the rippling of the waves. Silent and listless, the fresh air and bright sun seldom failed to restore to some degree of composure. Hold on. But the fresh air and bright sun seldom failed to restore me to some degree of composure, and on my return, I met the salutations of my friends with a readier smile and a more cheerful heart. It was after my return from one of these rambles that my father, calling me aside, thus addressed me. I am happy to remark, my dear son, that you have resumed your former pleasures, and seem to be returning to yourself. And yet you are still unhappy, and still avoid our society. For some time I was lost in conjecture as to the cause of this, but yesterday an idea struck me, and if it is well founded, I conjure you to avow it. Reserve on such a point would not be all. Hola, acquaintances. No habla español, sorry. Apologies. I know, like, a little Spanish. I know no habla español, and I know hola. Hold up. Yes, sir, I am very, very white. I do not know Spanish, and I think I have it listed in both my rules and my first time chatting thing that I prefer to keep it in English here. Like, if I knew Spanish, I would allow Spanish. If I knew French, I would allow French. If I knew other languages enough to allow them, I would allow them. But apologies, I do not speak Spanish I don't speak Spanish well enough to like allow it in my chat. Okay. I'll continue. I conjure you to avow it. Reserve on such a point would not only be not only useless, but drawn down the treble misery on us all. I trembled violently at his exordium, and my father continued. I confess, my son, that I have always looked forward to your marriage with our dear Elizabeth as the tie of our domestic comfort, and the stay of my declining. Sorry, I thought something was gonna happen. And the stay of my declining years. You were attached to each other from your earliest infancy. You started together and appeared in dispositions and tastes entirely suited to one another. But so blind is the experience of man that what I conceived to be the best assistance to my plan may have utterly destroyed it. You perhaps regard her as your sister, without any wish that she might become your wife. Nay, you may have met with another whom you may love. You consider yourself bound in honor to Elizabeth. This struggle may occasion with the poignant misery which you appear to feel. My dear father, reassure yourself. I love my cousin tenderly and sincerely. I never saw any woman who excited, as Elizabeth does, my warmest admiration and affection. My future hopes and prospects are entirely bound up in the expectation of our union. The expression of your sentiments of this subject, my dear Victor, gives me more pleasure. Gives me more pleasure than I've for some time experienced. If you feel thus, we shall assuredly be happy. However, present events may cast a gloom over us. It is this gloom which appears to have taken so strong a hold of your mind that I wish to dissipate. Tell me, therefore, whether you object to an immediate solemnization of the marriage. We have been unfortunate, and recent events have drawn us from that everyday tranquility befitting my years and infirmities. You are younger, yet I do not suppose, possessed as you are of a competent fortune, that an early marriage would at all interfere with any future plans of honor and utility that you may have formed. Do not suppose, however, that I wish to dictate happiness to you, or that a delay on your part would cause any serious uneasiness. Interpret my words with candor and answer me, I conjure you, with confidence and sincerity. So yeah, he just literally asked, hey Victor, do you want to marry your sister? And what is weird is that, Victor went yes. Victor went yes. Victor went yes, and he was... Okay, hold up. I'm just doing a thing. Just doing a little thing. Oh, okay. But yeah, he just was like, hey, wanna marry your sister? It would really make us all happy. I listened to my father in silence, and remained for some time incapable of offering any reply. I revolved rapidly in my mind a multitude of thoughts, and endeavored to arrive at some conclusion. Alas, to me, the idea of an immediate union with my Elizabeth was one of horror and dismay. I was bound by her solemn promise, which I had not yet fulfilled, and dare not break, or if I did, that manifold miseries might not append over me and my devoted family. Could I enter into a festival with this deadly weight yet hanging around my neck and bowing me to the ground? I must perform my engagement and let the monster depart with his mate, before I allow myself to enjoy the delight of a union from which I expected peace. I remember also the necessity imposed upon me of either journeying to England entering into a long correspondence with those philosophers of that country, whose knowledge and discoveries were indispensable to, whose knowledge and discoveries were of indispensable use to me in my present undertaking. The latter method of obtaining the desired intelligence was dilatory and unsatisfactory. Besides, I had an insurmountable aversion to the idea of engaging myself in my loathsome task in my father's house. Alright, see you soon. While in habits of a familiar discourse with those I loved, I knew that 1,000 fearful accidents might occur, the slightest of which would disclose a tale to thrill all connected with me with horror. I was aware that I should often lose all self-command, all capacity of hiding the harrowing sensations that would possess me during the progress of my unearthly occupation. I must absent myself from all I loved while thus employed. Once commenced, it would quickly be achieved, and I might be restored to my family in peace and happiness. My promise fulfilled, the monster would depart forever, or, so my fond fancy imaged, some accident might meanwhile occur to destroy him and put an end to my slavery forever. These feelings... No, hold up, I'm sorry. These feelings dictated my answer to my father. I expressed a wish to visit England, but concealing the true reasons of this request, I clothed my desires under a guise which excited no suspicion, while I urged my desire with an earnestness that easily induced my father to comply. After so long a period of absorbing melancholy that resembled madness in its intensity and effects, he was glad to find that I was capable of taking pleasure in the idea of such a journey, and he hoped that the change of scene and varied amusement would, before my return, have restored me entirely to myself. The duration of my absence was left to my own choice. A few months, or at most a year, was the period contemplated. On paternal precaution he had taken to ensure my having a companion. While previously communicating with me, he had, in concert with Elizabeth, arranged that Clerval should join me at Strasbourg. This interfered with the solitude I coveted for the prosecution of my task. Yet at the commencement of my journey, the presence of my friend could in no way be an impediment, and truly I rejoiced that thus I should be saved many hours of lonely, maddening reflection. Nay, Henry might stand between me and the intrusion of my foe. If I were alone, he would not at times force his abhorred presence on me to remind me of my task, or to contemplate its progress. To England, therefore, I was bound. It was understood that my union with Elizabeth should take place immediately on my return. My father's age rendered him extremely averse to delay. For myself, there is one reward I promised myself for my detested toils, one consolation for my imperiled sufferings. It was the prospect of that day when, enfranchised from my miserable slavery, I might claim Elizabeth, forget the past and my union with her. Oh god, this is gross. I now made arrangements for my journey, but one feeling haunted me, which filled me with fear and agitation. During my absence, should I leave my friends unconscious to the existence of their enemy, and unprotected from his attacks, exasperated as he might be by my departure? But he had promised to follow me wherever I might go, and would he not accompany me to England? This imagination was dreadful in itself, but soothing, inasmuch as it supposed the safety of my friends. I was agonized with the idea of the possibility that the reverse of this might happen. But through the whole period during which I was the slave of my creature, I allowed myself to be governed by the impulses of the moment, and my present sensation strongly intimated that the fiend would follow me and exempt my family from the danger of his machinations. Something happened. I saw something. I saw something. There we go. That. Can I? Hold up. And hold up. I'm doing, there we go. Okay. That's all done. Okay. Is in the latter end of September. Hold on, wait. Yeah. It was in the latter end of September that I again quitted my native country. My journey had been its own suggestion, and Elizabeth therefore acquiesced. But she was filled with disquiet at the idea of my suffering away from her. The inroads of misery and grief had been her care. Had been her care which provided me a companion in Clerval. And yet a man is blind to 1,000 minute circumstances which call forth a woman's sedulous attention. She longed to bid me hasten my return. 1,000 conflicting emotions rendered her mute, as she bade me a tearful, silent farewell. I threw myself into the carriage that was conveying me away, hardly knowing whither I was going, and careless of what was passing around. I remembered only, and it was with a bitter anguish that I reflected on it, to order that my chemical instruments should be packed to go with me. Filled with dreary imaginations, I passed through many beautiful and majestic scenes, but my eyes were fixed and unobserving. I could only think of the bourne of my travels, and the work which was to occupy me whilst they endured. After some days spent in listless indolence, during which I traversed many leagues, I arrived at Strasbourg, where I waited 2 days for Clerval. He came, alas, how great was the contrast between us. He was alive to every new scene, joyful when he saw the beauties of the setting sun, and more happy when he beheld it rise and recommence a new day. But he pointed out to me the shifting colors of the landscape and the appearances of the sky. "This is what it is to live," he cried. "Now I enjoy existence. But you, my dear Frankenstein, wherefore are you desponding and sorrowful?" In truth, I was occupied by gloomy thoughts, and neither saw the descent of the evening star, nor the golden sunrise reflected in the Rhine. And you, my friend, will be far more amused with the journal of Clerval, who observed the scenery with an eye of feeling and delight, than in listening and reflection. I, a miserable wretch, haunted by a curse that shut up every avenue to enjoyment. Hold up. We had agreed to descend the Rhine in a boat from Strasbourg to Rotterdam, whence we might take the shipping for London. During his voyage, we passed many hilly islands and saw several beautiful towns. We stayed a day at Mannheim, and on the 5th from our departure from Strasbourg, we arrived at Mayence. The course of the Rhine flow below Mayence becomes more picturesque. The river descends rapidly, and the winds between hills, not high but steep, and of beautiful forms. We saw many ruined castles standing on the edges of precipices. surrounded by black woods, high and inaccessible. This part of the Rhine, indeed, presents a singularly, this part of the Rhine, hold up, sorry. This part of the Rhine, indeed, presents a singularly variegated landscape. In one spot you view rugged hills, ruined castles overlooking tremendous precipices, with the dark Rhine rushing beneath, and on the southern turn of a promontory, flourishing vineyards with green sloping banks, and a meandering river, and populous towns occupy the scene. We traveled at the time of the vintage, at the song of the laborers, as we glide down the stream. Even I, depressed in mind and spirits continually agitated by gloomy feelings, even I was pleased. I lay at the bottom of the boat, and as I gazed on the cloudless blue sky, I seemed to drink in a tranquility to which I have been long a stranger. And if these were my sensations, who can describe those of Henry? He felt as if he had been transported to fairyland, and enjoyed a happiness seldom tasted by man. I have seen, he said, the most beautiful scenes in my own country. I have visited the lakes of Lucerne and Uri, where snowy mountains descend almost perpendicularly to the water, casting black and impenetrable shades, which would cause a gloomy and mournful appearance, were it not for the most verdant islands to relieve the eye by their gay appearance. I have seen this lake agitated by a tempest, when the wind tore up the whirlwinds of water, and gave you an idea of what waterspout must be on the great ocean. And the waves dashed with fury the base of the mountain where the priest and his mistress were overwhelmed by an avalanche, where their dying voices are still said to be heard amid the pauses of the nightly wind. I have seen the mountains of La Valais and the Pays d'Ivade, but this country, Victor, pleases me more than all those wonders. The mountains of Switzerland are more majestic and strange, but there is a charm in the banks of this divine river that I never before equaled. Look at the castle which overhangs yon precipice, and that also on the island, almost concealed amongst the foliage of those lovely trees. And now that group of laborers among their vines, and that village half hid in the recesses of the mountain. Oh, surely the spirit that inhabits and guards this place has a soul more in harmony with man than those who pile the glacier, or retire to the inaccessible peaks of the mountains of our own country. Clerval, beloved friend, even now it delights me to record your words, and to dwell on the praise of which you are so eminently deserving. He was a being formed in the very poetry of nature. His wild and enthusiastic imagination was chastened by the sensibility of his heart. His soul overflowed with ardent affections, and his friendship was that of devoted and wondrous nature, that the worldly minded teach us to look for only in the imagination. But even human sympathies were not sufficient to satisfy his eager mind. The scenery of external nature, which others regard with only admiration, he loved with ardor. We got a poem here. The sounding cataract haunted him like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain, and the deep gloomy wood, the colors and their forms were then to him an appetite, a feeling, and a love. It had no need of a remoter charm, I thought supplied, or any interest unborrowed from the eye. And where does he now exist? Is this gentle and lovely being lost forever? Has Has this mind so replete with ideas, imaginations, fanciful and magnificent, which formed a world whose existence depended on the life of its creator, has this mind perished? Does it now only exist in my memory? No, it is not thus. Your form, so divinely wrought and beaming with beauty, has decayed. But your visit still visits and consoles your unhappy friend. Pardon this gush of sorrow, these ineffectual words. Let me repeat that. Pardon this gush of sorrow. These ineffectual words are but a slight tribute to the unexampled worth of Henry. But they soothe my heart, overflowing with the anguish which his remembrance creates. I will proceed with my tale. Beyond Cologne, we descended to the plains of Holland, and we resolved to post the remainder of our way. For the wind was contrary, and the stream of the river was too gentle to aid us. Our journey here lost the interest arising from beautiful scenery, but we arrived in a few days at Rotterdam, whence we proceeded by sea to England. It was on a clear morning in the latter days of December that I saw the first white cliffs of Britain. The banks of the Thames presented a new scene. They were flat, but fertile, and almost every town was marked by the remembrance of some story. We saw Tilbury Fort and remembered the Spanish Armada, Gravesend, Woolwich, and Greenwich, places which I had heard of even in my country. At length we saw the numerous steeples of London, St. Paul's towering over all, and the tower formed in English history. Okay. A yawn. I'm stretching. Okay. So, we got another really supremely homosexual dedication to Henry. One man writing about another so deeply and affectionately of all his admirations cause he's not gay. But seriously, can I have the toxic yaoi version of this? I don't really have much to input here, because it was mostly we're in Victor's thoughts, but we are getting the idea that he loves Elizabeth romantically, and that his father wants them to marry. Oh god, it's so weird. And we also went from calling Elizabeth his cousin to just out and out saying they're brother and sister, which kind of tells me there may have been a point where there was in-between drafts, and maybe this was one of them. Like, this is an in-between edition where he was outright calling Elizabeth his sister and shifting over to calling him his cousin, so this may be like in between those. Also, I just need to do a small thing. Hold up. Small thing. I need to make a small searchy poo. Okay, that's not helpful, but it works. But he's going all the way to England, and I assume this England is where he meets the scientist who helps him make the Bride of Frankenstein that you see in the Bride of Frankenstein movies. So, like, this is gonna be the dude who helps him with that. So, I need more water, considering that we're going all the way to 11 p.m. So, I'm just gonna send y'all to my, BRB screen while I, deal with, getting water. So just look at the bats, can I, there we go. Be right back. Back, but let's just linger on the screen for a sec. Let's just linger on the cute bats. It's getting Halloween season, so that means bats, more bats. But back to what we were reading. Okay. We're on chapter 19, so what's gonna happen is we're going to get through chapter 19, and I'll stop on 20. 20 looks a little shortish. Chapter 19 looks long, though. I don't know, they're about the same thing, but like I said, I will stop at 20. Welcome back. We are now on chapter 19, and we're in London. And continuing to make bad decisions. Though, has anyone in the story made a good decision? Has anyone in the story made a good decision? Chapter 19. London was our present point of rest. We determined to remain several months in this wonderful and celebrated city. Clerval desired the intercourse of the men of genius and talent who flourished at this time. But this was with me a secondary object. I was principally occupied with the means of obtaining the information necessary for the completion of my promise, and quickly availed myself of the letters of introduction that I had brought with me, addressed to the most distinguished natural philosophers. No, it's not fiction if there's people making good decisions. Fiction is all about bad decisions, and where those get you. If this journey had taken place during my days of study and happiness, it would have afforded me inexpressible pleasure. But a blight had come over my existence, and I only visited these people for the sake of information that they might give me on the pressure. And I only visited these people for the sake of the information that they might give me on the subject in which my interest was so terribly profound. Company was irksome to me. When alone, I could fill my mind with the sights of heaven and earth. The voice of Henry soothed me, and I could thus cheat myself into a transitory peace. Busy, uninteresting, joyous faces brought back despair to my heart. I saw an insurmountable barrier placed between me and my fellow men. This barrier was sealed with the blood of William and Justine, and to reflect on events connected with those names filled my soul with anguish. But in Clerval, I saw the image of my former self. He was inquisitive, and anxious to gain experience and instruction. The difference of manners which he observed was to him an inexhaustible. The difference of manners which he observed. Hold up! It's late. It's late, and my mouth don't want to move right. But in Clerval, I saw the image of my former self. He was inquisitive and anxious to gain experience and instruction. The difference of manners which he observed was to him an inexhaustible source of instruction and amusement. He was also pursuing an object which he had long had in view. His design was to visit India, in the belief that he had in his knowledge of its various languages, and in the views he had taken of its society, the means of materially assisting the progress of European colonization and trade. I'm sorry, I was like, oh no, he's a colonizer. In Britain, only could he further the execution of his plan. He was forever busy, and the only check to his enjoyments was my sorrowful and dejected mind. I tried to conceal this as much as possible, that I might not debar him from the pleasures natural to one who is entering on a new scene of life, undisturbed by any care or bitter recollection. I often refused to accompany him, alleging another engagement, that I might remain alone. I now also began to collect the materials necessary for my new creation. And this was to me like the torture of single drops of water continually falling on the head. Every thought was devoted to it was an extreme anguish, and every word I spoke in allusion to it caused my lips to quiver and my heart to palpitate. After passing some months in London, we received a letter from a person in Scotland, who had formerly been our visitor at Geneva. He mentioned the beauties of his native country, and asked if those were not sufficient allurements to induce us to prolong our journey as far north as Perth, where he resided. Clerval eagerly desired to accept his invitation, and I, although I abhorred society, wished to view again mountains and streams, and all wondrous works with which nature adorns her chosen dwelling places. We arrived in England at the beginning of October, and it was now February. We accordingly determined to commence our journey towards the north, at expiration of another month. In this expedition, we did not intend to follow the great road to Edinburgh, but to visit Windsor, Oxford, Matlock, and the Cumberland Lakes, resolving to arrive at the completion of this tour about the end of July. I packed up my chemical instruments and the materials I had collected, resolving to finish my labors in some obscure nook in the northern highlands of Scotland. We quitted London on the 27th of March, and remained a few days at Windsor, rambling in its beautiful forest. This was a new scene to us mountaineers, the majestic oats. I just said majestic oats. Shaking my head. This was a new scene to us mountaineers, the majestic oaks, the quantity of game, and the herds of stately deer were all novelties to us. From thence we proceeded to Oxford. As we entered this city, our minds were filled with the remembrance of the events that had been transacted there more than a century and a half before. It was here that Charles I had collected his forces. The state had remained faithful to him, after the whole nation had forsaken his cause to join the standard of a parliament in liberty. The memory of that unfortunate king and his companions, the amiable Falkland, the insolent Goring, his queen and son, gave a peculiar interest to every part of the city, which might be supposed to have inhabited. Gave a peculiar interest to every part of the city, which hold up. I fucked that so much. I'm sorry. The memory of that unfortunate king, his companions, the amiable Falkland, the insolent Goring, his queen and son, gave a peculiar interest to every part of the city, which they might be supposed to have inhabited. The spirit of elder days found a dwelling here, and we delighted to trace its footsteps, If these feelings had not found an imaginary gratification, the appearance of the city had yet itself sufficient beauty to obtain our admiration. The colleges are ancient and picturesque. The streets are almost magnificent, and the lovely Isis, which flows beside through which bat screech, and the lovely Isis, which flows beside it through meadows of exquisite verdure, is spread forth through into a placid expanse of waters, which reflects its majestic assemblage of towers and spires and domes, embosomed among aged trees. I enjoyed this scene, and yet my enjoyment was embittered by both memory of the past and the anticipation of the future. I was formed for peaceful happiness. During my youthful days, discontent never visited my mind, and if I was ever overcame by ennui, the sight of what is beautiful in nature or the study of what is excellent and sublime in the productions of man could always interest my heart and communicate elasticity to my spirits. But I am a blasted tree. The bolt has entered my soul, and I felt then I should survive to exhibit what I shall soon cease to be, a miserable spectacle of wrecked humanity, pitiable to others and intolerable to myself. Hold up, drink. We passed a considerable period at Oxford, rambling among its environs, endeavoring to identify every spot which might relate to the most animating epoch of English history. Our little voyages of discovery were often prolonged by the successive objects that presented themselves. We visited the tomb of the illustrious Hampden, and the field which that patriot fell. For a moment my soul was elevated from its debasing and miserable fears to contemplate divine ideas of liberty and self-sacrifice, at which these sites were the monuments and the remembrances. Hold up. This is a sentence. For a moment my soul was elevated from its debasing and miserable fears to contemplate the divine ideas of liberty and self-sacrifice, at which these sites were the monuments and the remembrancers. For an instant I dared to shake off my chains, and look around me with a free and lofty spirit, but the iron had eaten into my flesh, and I sank again, trembling and hopeless, into my miserable self. I write very flowery, and I actually like the writing style, but trying to say some of this is a challenge. We left Oxford with regret, and proceeded to Matlock, which was our next place of rest. The country in the neighborhood of this village resembled, to a greater degree, the scenery of Switzerland, where everything is on a lower scale. The green hills on the crown of distant white Alps, which always attend on the piney mountains of my native country. We visited the wondrous cave, and the little cabinets of natural history, where the curiosities are disposed in the same manner as in the collections at Cerveau and Chamonix. The latter name made me tremble when pronounced by Henry, and I hastened to quit Matlock, with which that terrible scene was thus associated. It's interesting, definitely, yeah. I think this is where, like, Gothic really got its, feet. This is where Gothic writing really just sank in. It's spiraling maw of teeth. Dracula, Frankenstein, Carmilla, all Gothic. Just when Gothic started. How much more we got? Okay, yeah, we're ending with chapter 19 tonight. From Derby, still journeying northward, we passed 2 months in Cumberland and Westmoreland. I can now almost fancy myself among the Swiss mountains. The little patches of snow which yet lingered on the northern side of the mountains, the lakes, and the little dashing of walky streams were all familiar and dear sights to me. Here we also made some acquaintances who almost contrived to cheat me into happiness. The delight of Clerval was proportionally greater. The delight of Clerval was proportionably greater than mine. His mind expanded in the company of men of talent. He found in his own nature greater capacities and resources than he could imagine himself to have possessed while he was associated in his affinity. Yeah, it's the end of the night. And he found in his own nature greater capacities and resources than he could have imagined himself to have possessed while he associated with his inferiors. I could pass my life here, he said to me, and among these mountains I could scarcely regret Switzerland and the Rhine. But I found that a traveler's life is one that includes much pain amidst its enjoyments. His feelings are forever on the stretch, and when he begins to sink into repose, he finds himself obliged to quit that on which he rests in pleasure for something new, which again engages his attention, and which he also forsakes for other novelties. We had scarcely visited the various lakes of Cumberland and Westmoreland, and conceived an affection for some of the inhabitants, when the period of our appointment with our Scotch friend approached, and we left them to travel on. For my own part, I was not sorry. I now neglected my promise for some time, and I feared the effect of the Damon's disappointment. He might remain in Switzerland, and wreak his vengeance upon my relatives. This idea pursued me, and tormented me at every moment from which I might otherwise have snatched repose and peace. I waited for my letters with feverish impatience. If they were delayed, I was miserable, and overcome by 1,000 fears. When they arrived, I saw the superscription of Elizabeth or my father, and hardly dared to read and ascertain my fate. Sometimes I thought the fiend followed me, and might expedite my remissness by murdering my companion. When these thoughts possessed me, I would not quit Henry for a moment, but followed him as a shadow, to protect him from the fancied rage of his destroyer. I felt as if I had committed some great crime, the consciousness of which haunted me. I was guiltless, but I had indeed drawn down a horrible curse upon my head, as mortal as that of crime. Now I drink. I visited Edinburgh with languid eyes and mind, and yet that same might have interested the most unfortunate being. Oh, stretch. Clerval did not like it so well as Oxford, for the antiquity of the latter say was more pleasing to him. I got double stretch. Hold up. I got Tamagotchi and a stretch. So I'll do double stretch. Well, Alpha GX being a hoe, I didn't know you were live. Yeah. Yeah, I'm live. Barely living, but alive. Thank you though. Thank you for coming in. You're catching the tail end of the stream, cause oh my god, I cannot speak anymore. I miss so much. Don't worry, there's the VOD. There's the VOD here, and I'm gonna put it up on YouTube. Don't worry. You missed a log, but you don't have to permanently miss it. And like, if you ever want my videos, like, just to download, I can supply any of you guys with the actual I will supply you guys with the raw file if you want it. I don't mind. Yes, so many parasocial activities. Frankenstein is so modern, it hurts. It's so modern, it hurts sometimes. I did not want to relate so badly. I did not want to relate this much. Let me just roll my shoulders a bit since I had 2 stretchies. Need to unshrimp thyself. Actually, you know what? I'm going to lift my microphone. And just kind of like lean back. We're gonna lean back and finish the rest of this. We will not shrimp while reading this. I visited Edinburgh with languid eyes and mind, and yet that same eye have interested the most unfortunate being. Thurville did not like it as so well as Oxford, for the antiquity of the last thing was more pleasing to him. But the beauty and regularity of the new town of Edinburgh, its romantic castle and its environs, the most delightful in the world, Arthur's Seat, St. Bernard's Well, and the Pentland Hills compensated him for the change, and filled him with cheerfulness and admiration. But I was impatient to arrive at the termination of my journey. We left Edinburgh in a week, passing through Cupar, St. Andrews, and along the banks of the Tay to Perth, where our friend expected us. But I was in no mood to laugh and talk with strangers, or enter into their feelings or plans with good humor expected from a guest. And accordingly I told Clerval that I wished to make the tour of Scotland alone. Do you, said I, enjoy yourself, and let this be our rendezvous. I may be absent a month or 2, but do not interfere with my motions. I entreat you, leave me to peace and solitude for a short time. When I return, I hope it will be with a lighted heart, more congenial to your own temper. Henry wished to dissuade me, but seeing me bent on this plan, ceased to remonstrate. He entreated me to write often. I had rather be with you, he said, in your solitary ramble, than with these Scotch people, whom I do not know. Hasten then, my dear friend, to return, that I might again feel myself somewhat at home, which I cannot do in your absence. This is so gay, I love it. Having parted from my friend, I determined to visit some remote spot of Scotland and finish my work in solitude. I did not doubt that the monster followed me and would discover himself to me when I should have finished, that he might receive his companion. With this resolution, I traversed the Northern Highlands, and fixed on one the remoteness of the Orkneys as the scene of my labors. It was a place fitted for such a work, hardly being more than a rock. Sorry, I'm like adjusting. Whose high sides were continually beaten upon the waves. The soil was barren, scarcely affording pasture for a few miserable cows, and oatmeal for its inhabitants, which consisted of 5 persons. Gaunt and scraggly limbs gave tokens of their miserable fare. Vegetables and bread, when they indulged such luxuries, and even fresh water, was to be procured from the mainland, which was about 5 miles distant. On the whole island, there were but 3 miserable huts, and one of these was vacant when I arrived. This I hired. It contained but 2 rooms, and these exhibited all the squalidness of the most miserable penury. The thatch had fallen in, the walls were unplastered, and the door was off its hinges. I ordered it to be repaired, bought some furniture, and took possession. An incident which would, doubtless, have occasioned some surprise. But not all the senses of the cottagers had been numbed by want and squalid poverty. As it was, I lived ungazed at and unmolested, hardly thanked for the pittance of food and clothes which I gave. So much does suffering blunt even the coarsest sensations of men. In this retreat I devoted the In this retreat, I devoted the morning to labor, but in the evening, when the weather permitted, I walked on the stony beach of the sea to listen to the waves as they roared and dashed at my feet. It was a monotonous yet ever-changing scene. I thought of Scotland. Wait, hold up, reverse that. I thought of Switzerland. It was far different from this desolate and appalling landscape. Its hills are covered with vines, and its cottages are scattered thickly in the plains. Its fair lakes reflect a blue and gentle sky, and when troubled by the winds, the tumult is but as the play of a lively infant when compared to the roarings of the great ocean. Yeah, it is great. It's lovely. In this manner, I distributed my occupations when I first arrived. As I proceeded in my labor, it became every day more horrible and irksome to me. Sometimes I would not prevail on myself to enter my laboratory for several days, and at other times I toiled day and night in order to complete my work. It was indeed a filthy process in which I was engaged. During my first experiment, a kind of enthusiastic frenzy had blinded me to the horror of my employment. My mind was intently fixed on the consummation of my labor. My eyes were shut to the horror of my proceedings. Now I went in at cold blood, and my heart was often sickened at the work of my hands. Thus situated, employed in the most detestable occupation, immersed in a solitude where nothing could for an instant call my attention from the actual scene in which I was engaged, my spirits became unequal. I grew restless and nervous. Every moment I feared to meet my persecutor. Sometimes I sat with my eyes fixed on the ground, fearing to raise them, lest they should encounter the object which I was so dread to behold. I feared to wander from the sight of my fellow creatures, lest alone he should come to claim his companion. In the meantime, I worked on, and my labors always considerably advanced. I looked towards its completion with a tremulous and eager hope, which I dare not trust myself to question, but which was intermixed with obscure forebodings of evil that made my heart sicken in my bosom. And that was chapter 19. So, what does everyone think so far? Yes. So much does the suffering blunt even the coarsest sensations of man. That's very, that even, like, is modern today. That's even true today. Mary Shelley knew humanity, is why I feel, that's why I feel from this. Mary Shelley knew humanity. Yes, the prose is delicious. I think the main thing about this prose is that I can sometimes jumble words and it still makes sense. Like, I'm not sure if it's, like, the depression or if I, like, late life dyslexia. I don't think it's dyslexia, but I will read words and then I will move them around. And that will, like, I will move them around in a way that they still make sense and don't change the definition or how the prose would be interpreted. So, like, yeah, this is, like, really good. I can... Does Mary Shelley have other books? Or is it just Frankenstein? Damn it, I muted myself and totally forgot to unmute. Oh, but now I did. But I am looking up to see if Mary Shelley has any other books, because we might read those. I'm really liking this. I'm really enjoying this. Oh my god. May has more than Frankenstein, that's what I thought. Oh no, that's not a motorcycle, that's a person. Yeah, she probably has a lot of short stories. Back then, short stories got you places. Why? Why does... I hate... I'm not sure if anyone else's VPN does this, but whenever I search for something on Google, it takes me to... It wants to make sure that I'm not a robot, and I'm just like, no, I'm not a robot, how do you not understand? I guess it's because everyone's using this VPN for a bot. Yeah. I'm starting to think the internet's going to hell in a handbasket. I don't think I see us in that. Can you verify, please? Okay. Let's see here. Let's see what other books she has. Can you, give me her bibliography? I get it, she's like really good. She writes about politics and gender and everything. Okay, oh, okay. Her selected works are A History of a 6 Weeks Tour through France, Switzerland, Germany, with letter. Okay, that's travel narrative. Then we have Frankenstein. Then Matilda. Let's see here. What is Matilda about? Ah, incest and suicide. The narrative deals with a father's incestuous love for his daughter. Yeah, that tracks. That tracks. Valperga, or the life and adventures of Trasuccio, Prince of Lucca. What is you about? Then we have The Last Man. The Fortunes of Perkin Warbeck, Lodor, and Faulkner. Yeah, she seems to have dad issues. She seems to have father issues, mother issues. Let's see her. Okay, oh, she doesn't have that many novels. It's just, Frankenstein, Valperga, The Last Man, The Fortunes of Perkin Warbeck, Lodor, Faulkner, and Matilda. And a lot of her work is considered sci-fi. And she has, some children's literature. Articles and reviews. She did a translation. She did enough. Technically, I've actually done a lot. It's just that I haven't done a lot professionally. And not to mention, I did a lot over years. I think I have over 700 poems, technically. Like, lyrics. It's just that a lot of those were from when I was in high school and in college. Before the Depression. I was prolific before the Great Depression. I was prolific before. Now. Now I'm getting a handle on myself again, but, yeah. But I'm enjoying Frankenstein. I kind of want to read the rest of her works, though. It's funny how two great horror monsters came from the same book. That's very interesting. But I am ready to but like I've talked a lot. I don't think I can add like any more than I already have. I'm we're we're about to get into the I think we're entering the climax. I don't know. Frankenstein is very really built. It's an old book. And, like it's not like I feel like there was a giant point in time where all books were kind of like doing the same build, but that was like 50s or so, like 50s to like 90s. But now it's like we're heading back to stories are just aesthetics and vibes and don't really do the entire building up to the climax and then doing the denouement thing. I feel like we just had like multiple climaxes. Like we had Victor build the monster. Then we had like Henry coming home. Henry coming to take care of him, and that was like the denouement. Then we have the murder, which was another climax. It just kind of feels like there's like multiple things going on. So like yeah. But I had a good time. We are going to finish Frankenstein next week. Uh or we might finish it I don't know, it depends on what I want to do for next Sunday. So I'm not 100% sure what we will be doing. I kind of want to have people send in poems and stuff, and I could read those aloud. Or maybe I let chat help me build a Call of Cthulhu campaign, maybe? I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do on Sunday. Not yet. But, thank you all for joining me. Let's see who's on. Maybe we should go from a bat to a bat, because I had a bat raid me, so we should raid a bat. If I can find one. If there's a bat on. I don't think there's a bat on. Let's see here. Have I rated you? Hold up. Who's on? Oh man, well, there is too many people on. Okay, there's too many people who I haven't rated who are on. Have I rated Ink yet? Hold up. Who? Oh man, Zazel's on. You know what? I don't think I rated the Zazel, so... Wait. No, wait. Hold up. Oh no, I don't know who to choose. You know what? It's Bazazel. It's Bazazel. Okay, hold on. But thank y'all for joining me. I hope y'all had an amazing night. Thank you for joining me in the Sacred Void. We will be continuing stream on, damn it. we'll be continuing on Thursday as we always do with art. With art. Can I unpin that? But, thank you all. And let's go. Okay. Okay. Give me my spider boy. Give me the spider. Thank you all. Farewell. And good night. Bye.